Hello everybody, Necromancy for Kids here, back with the deck profile. This time this is a special deck specifically for the brand new Fossil Fish Week, which has just started this year and is basically like Shark Week, except it's not copyrighted by Discovery, and also it's about fossil fish, ancient fish from the old days. I decided to make a deck based around it because I like to make holiday themed decks and janky decks in general, and this one is definitely jank. This is pretty much the only thing I could think of that fit the theme in GOAT format, because unfortunately we don't have Super Ancient Coelacanth, which would be the perfect card for Fossil Fish Week. Instead, what I decided to do was go for a deck based around Terrorking Salmon and the Legendary Fisherman, kind of like an homage to all of the old legendary fish. And it's pretty janky, but I did a couple of duels with it and it beat other jank, but as expected, lost to actual decks. Let me get started with the deck profile here. First off, we have 3 Terrorking Salmon, which is just a worse version of Giga Gaga Gigo. So if you're making this deck and you're not planning on doing it specifically for Fossil Fish Week, just use Giga Gaga Gigo. It literally just has 50 more attack and 500 more defense. There's no other reason to run it in this deck other than for the theme. And it is a level 5 fish with 2400 attack, 1000 defense, water of course. And level 5 is very important because we run Legendary Ocean in this deck to decrease the level of our monsters. So you can normal summon this when you have Legendary Ocean out without having to tribute. The same is true for Legendary Fisherman. Level 5 Warrior, 1850 attack, 1600 defense. While Umi is on the field, this card is unaffected by spell effects and cannot be targeted for attacks, but does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly. Unfortunately, the ability to negate or unaffected by spell effects means that it also is unaffected by Umi, meaning that it doesn't get the attack boost, sadly, which really sucks. But at least this can dodge Book of Moon and Snatch Steel, and we run 2 cards in this deck that specifically combo with it as well. But next up we have 7 colored fish. We run 3 of them because we're talking about ancient fish, and this is a very rare fish that has never been caught by mortal man, just as many fossil fish from years past. And then we run 3 Lakunga in this deck because we plan on banishing our monsters. It's a level 4 plant, 1700 attack, 500 defense. We banish 2 water monsters in the graveyard. It's not just once per turn. And you can special summon 1 Lakunga token, which is level 2, 700 with Legendary Ocean out. They're level 1 with 900. So it can be okay. It's a okay beater when Umi's out on the field, 1900 attack. And we want to banish monsters, so that's why I included it. You could technically use something like Aqua Spirit instead, but I like the ability to banish a bunch at once and the fact that it has 1700 attack, so it fits with the beatdown theme that we're kind of going for here. Then we have 2 copies of Fenrir for much the same reason. We want to banish monsters and we're running water monsters. Cannot be normal summoned or set. This card can only be special summoned by removing 2 water monsters from your graveyard from play. When this card destroys your opponent's monster at battle, your opponent skips his or her next draw phase. So basically, if it's beating down weaker monsters, your opponent's going to be losing card advantage, and potentially they're eventually gonna maybe stop setting monsters entirely so that you just get a big swing in, because otherwise you're not getting anything from it. Then we have 2 copies of Abyss Soldier, of course, because it's a water deck, and 1 copy of Sinister Serpent, and 1 copy of Tribe Infecting Virus. Then we have the Trinity. Don't need to explain that. No Mana Cross Out ×2. Heavy Storm, of course. It kind of hurts us in this deck a little bit because Legendary Ocean, but it's really good most of the time. You could potentially remove this and then run something like Giant Trunade or Dust Tornado or what have you instead, but I like having it because we don't necessarily need Ocean, but it's definitely been awkward a couple times. Then we have Premature Burial. Even though we're banishing stuff, we're still usually going to have monsters in the graveyard for it anyway. Although, again, I've run into awkward situations. Mystical Space Typhoon and Snatch Steel. Then the 3 Legendary Ocean and 1 Terraforming. Find them. You could potentially run 2, but the deck doesn't 100% rely on Terraforming. And there are ways to discard it. So I probably would say to run 2 if you were going to take this deck more seriously. But for me, just 1 is fine. And 1 card destruction, just because maybe these cards clog in your hand and fuels up for removing them with Lakunga and Fenrir, or I guess you'd have to hope that you draw into Fenrir. Or revive them with Premature Burial, and you have Sinister Serpent to gain advantage. Then we have 1 Lightning Vortex, because we're running Sinister Serpent, and helps us get these in the graveyard if they're clogging, and then we can remove them. Then the combo cards with the Legendary Fisherman, and one reason why we want to banish so much is Chaos End. It is a dark hole, but it can only be activated if there are 7 or more of your cards currently removed from play. I haven't actually gotten to that condition yet, so maybe this card is even worth running at all, and maybe you'd be better off running extra copies of some other stuff, but I thought it would be funny if you ever do get to combo off with it. Then we have Special Hurricane. Discard 1 card from your hand, destroy all special summon monsters in the field. So in a way, it's kind of like another Lightning Vortex, helps you get rid of a lot of monsters. You could discard these when they're clogging your hand, and Legendary Fisherman won't be affected by it, even if it was special summoned, because, of course, it's unaffected by spell cards when Umi's on the field. Then we have Mirror Force, Ring of Destruction, Torrential Tribute, and you run 2 Return from the Different Dimension. You could potentially, if you wanted to, get rid of Chaos End and just run another Return from the Different Dimension. You could also, instead of Return from the Different Dimension, you could run Dimension Fusions, but I prefer to run it this way. It's entirely up to you how you want to do that. With that is the end of this deck profile. There isn't really too much to say for this one. It's just straight up beatdown. And themed after the Fossil Fish Week, I'll put a link in the description for you guys so you can learn more about that. Thank you very much, and have a great day.